Your imagination is limited by your self-image. Nobody talks about the six mental faculties. Those are the aspects of our brain. The renewal of the brain is the six mental faculties that create our daily reality.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Salem Speakers Podcast. Today's guest has spent years helping people overcome self-doubt, rediscover purpose, and live with greater freedom and intention. Dr. Victoria Rader is a transformational speaker, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, founder of You Too Shine, and creator of what she calls quantum personal development. Through her work, she has helped thousands of people break through limiting beliefs and begin living with greater purpose, confidence, and joy. Vika, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacob.
Well, honored to have you here. And I want to begin our conversation today with a question that sits at the heart of everything you teach, which is, why do you think that so many people settle for less than the life they were created to live?
Probably there are a few different aspects to that. And the first one is they are genuinely unaware that they are created for something greater. And more importantly, the second reason is because they've been conditioned by life, by trauma, or by self-inflicted drama to believe that it's either too late for them, or while it's possible for somebody else, it cannot be possible for them. So that would be a combination of the two, I think.
Why do you think so many people struggle to recognize their own value?
I think we're not taught the core value of who we are as what I know to be children of God, right? Great overall designer,
Yeah.
however you discover that to be. And I think that there is such an ambush of this one simple truth, and we tiptoe around it, and we try to come up with alternatives. And the bottom line is the alternatives have failed us.
Yeah.
The alternatives have failed us. And so when you remember who you are as a divine spark of creation, as a literal offspring of divine, as a child of God, when you understand that as your core identity, and then when you claim it as your core identity, your life will start changing simply as a result of that. And so what has happened, I call it the great deception, because the truth has been yanked out of our very soul. We are assuming that one more accolade, one more degree, one more accomplishment, one more sale is going to get us to feeling who we were born to be in the first place. And this hunger, love Les Brown, got to speak with Les Brown, good friend. However, this whole thing of be hungry, where does Christ say that?
Yeah.
Where is the truth of be hungry, right? And so I think it's the hunger for greater that detaches us from starting with who we already are, with the intrinsic worth and value of a human soul.
Yeah, I love that. So we all have different beliefs. Some of us have strong beliefs. Some of us have limiting beliefs that we're all overcoming. And this is something, intertwined with this concept of self-worth that you've covered. Where do you think limiting beliefs usually begin?
Well, the word belief is wonderful because if you look at the word believing, right, it's to be and to be living with a little bit of spelling there. And so there's this whole that I find to be absolutely fascinating construct in spiritual circles, being versus doing. And I'm like, they're one and the same because you're doing what you're being, period. As a baby that was born into this world, you came in with certain genetic coding that was coded in you. I'll give you an example. I was born in the Soviet Union in Ukraine. And my grandpa, his parents were actually very successful both in business and in patriarchy. But when the Soviets came, the religion was outlawed as such, and my great-grandparents were put in a ditch. The
Mhm.
government dug out a ditch for them, took over their property, and they put them in the dirt, where in 5 days my great-grandpa died, and in a couple of
Mhm.
weeks my grandma. And so then my grandpa, at age 5, was orphaned and adopted in the Soviet regime, which, by the way, was one of the ways the Soviet was reprogramming the children that were coming from faith-based families to the families as to where there is a God and his name is Lenin, right? There's still a God. We worship something. We
Right.
all worship something. But the reason I'm saying it is because, so for him, the belief was formed by his upbringing that he cannot own anything, that it is dangerous to own anything, that if you own anything, it will be taken away from you. And so, just like we pass on our eye coloring, our skin coloring, the most recent genetic study proves that we pass on the thought patterns that are coded into our genetic markers. And so, the belief, if I have something, I will have it only long enough for it to be taken away, is the genetic belief that was coded in me. And the genetic belief that I see in every third entrepreneur that has a breakthrough, achieves a certain level of success, and then loses it all over and over and over again. And so that is a genetic pattern of no matter how much I have, it's just a matter of time before I lose it all. That's
Yeah.
probably one of the most popular genetic belief that was triggered by the environment and the upbringing.
That's deep and powerful. So how does somebody who has limiting beliefs or beliefs that are wired, from generation to generation and even passed down, how does someone begin, breaking free from them? How do you rewire your mind, if you will, to begin overcoming them?
There are a lot of very powerful methods. I like to simplify things ad nauseum. Simple does it every time. And so the first thing is to become aware. Most of us are not damaged by those negative patterns we're aware of. If we're aware of a negative pattern, we're already working through it, actually. It's within our awareness. It is those patterns that are in our deep subconscious programming. And so the first step is to become aware. And how do you become aware? When you look around and you notice what you notice, because what you notice is what you create. And what do I mean by that? If you are a single girl or guy and you're just thinking of finding a soulmate, look around how you react when you see happy couples.
Hmm.
Because your reaction to happy couples is going to tell you more about your subconscious belief of whether it's possible for you or not. If you're struggling entrepreneur, how are you reacting to people that are thriving? What are you just kind of open randomly to a successful person and listen to your internal conversation? Those are the beliefs that are damaging. And so instead of trying to yank every individual one and trying to rewire them, which by the way, I have a phenomenal free tool to do that I can share later, but from the very point of resentment or rejection of somebody who has what you want, reframe to, I send nothing but love to them. I'm going to pray over their success and over mine. And that puts you on equal frequency, even energy footing with what you want without pushing it away and out of your life.
Well, I love that. And I love giving free resources to our listeners. And at the end of this, we'll get all your contact information out there for them to contact you as well. But where could somebody go to get that free resource that you mentioned?
Super easy, mygiftoffer.com. If you go to mygiftoffer.com, there are 50 most limiting and damaging subconscious beliefs and their counterparts as a quantum leap and an amazing, absolutely free to you video technique that trains you how to break through those subconscious patterns.
Was that mygiftoffering.com? Did I get that right?
Mygiftoffer.com.
Giftoffer.com. All right. I'm checking it in live time to make sure it's working. But that's awesome. So if you go to my gift offer, that's an amazing domain, by the way, and it's working. So I pulled it up on my side. It's not on the screen or anything, but mygiftoffer.com is where you can go and get that free resource. Thank you for sharing that with our listeners. Well, that's great. And I love talking to a true expert, right? And as we quoted Les Brown a little earlier, I think he gets the citation for the quote that says, you know a thing or two because you've seen a thing or two. And when I talk to an expert like yourself, things just seem to flow out. So how does somebody that is aware, they're starting to listen and they took your tips already to, look up the entrepreneur, if you will, and get those inner thoughts. Is that the best way, or is there other ways to begin rebuilding their own sense of worth and value and understanding that they can have more?
Yeah, there are two ways to fill a cup, right? One is by emptying it and filling it back up, and that's where we release the beliefs that are limiting. But there is also truth and much more subtle way. If you take a cup with some dark liquid and you keep pouring, clear liquid in, it's just a matter of time before the clear liquid washes it all out. And so for somebody who's less curious in the hows and the whats and what are you letting go of, we have a lot of beautiful daily system of refilling yourself and recreating a life of your desire. You've mentioned human worth, and we have a lot of different journals. One of those journals is called Worthy Me. And what I have discovered, Jacob, is that many years ago, over a decade ago, I had an amazing opportunity to work with Bob Proctor.
Awesome.
And he's somebody that I learned about six mental faculties about. He used to talk, you have five senses to perceive the world. You see, touch, taste, smell, and hear. But he said nobody talks about the six mental faculties. And what are those? Those are the aspects of our brain. The renewal of the brain is the six mental faculties that create our daily reality. And Bob used to start with imagination. Now, for our system, we start with perception. Those are perception, imagination, intuition, reason, memory, and will. Fascinating. We are taught by great speakers. Think big, imagine great things. Well, I've got a surprise for you. Your imagination is limited by your self-image,
Mm,
and your self-image is a reflection of your relationship to your self-worth. So it all starts with your worth. If deeply inside you're not feeling you are worthy of a life of those great dreams, you cannot become an energy match to creating that life. And so it all starts with a genuine knowing of your worth. And so the journal was created because I had a client who came to me and she was struggling with commitment, or so she thought. She said, I'm either constantly overcommitting or I'm undercommitting. And I went through starting to think of, I'm going to give her basic steps of discipline. But what came through me, and I believe is very key, is that every single one, and goes counter everything you've believed up till now, every single one of us is 100% committed all the time. It's who we are committed to.
yeah.
There is a scared part of me, and there's a sacred part of me. And every moment of every day, I'm just shifting this sea of commitment from scared to sacred and back. If you look at the word scared and sacred, that sea of commitment is the only difference in those two words. So when you're sacred, when you're scared, you're committing to a life of unworthy disappointment. So the question you want to ask yourself when you're most scared, or what would be the sacred part of me do? What would love do? What would love do right now? And do that.
That is so good. You talk often about freedom, right?
Mhm.
What does freedom really mean to you?
I grew up in the Soviet Union, which was a completely totalitarian society. So in Soviet Union, we had duties and no rights. There were just obligations to the government, to the party, to the country, to the method, but there were no rights. Like literally, you had zero rights. And so coming to the United States over 30 years ago, I was like, oh, wow, isn't it fascinating? Freedom is every duty has a right attached to it. Which, by the way, right now we're stepping away, we're going to anarchy because now we think we have rights without duties. That's anarchy. So,
Mm,
freedom on a basic daily level is a tender balance between one's rights and one's duties. So, when you demand a right in life, ask yourself which duty you're upholding for that right, and the other way around. Never take an obligation that does not come with the right. So that's a practical understanding of freedom. And that practical understanding of freedom for me is underpinned by the energy flow. I was five and growing up back home, I was a very creative kid. And so I was in a room and wanted to create a hanger for my doll's dress. I pulled out a metal pin out of my hair and I stuck it into the socket, an electrical socket. And as I stuck it into the socket, gratefully, I didn't get killed
yeah.
because fuses blew. As fuses blew, I say so did my grandpa. And so why am I sharing this? Because the resistance in the fuses saved my life. So if you think of the house, there's a level of electricity that is identical that comes to all of the devices inside your house. But the output, the energy, the light is very different. A 15-watt bulb is very dim. while the stadium lights are very bright with the same level of electricity. And so each one of us is plugged in into a quantum field, the matrix of energy at all times. And this quantum field, the matrix of energy, has free flow of
Mm,
infinite light.
good.
So much so that DNA research has proven that our mitochondria is 10,000 times more powerful light producer than the sun. So we are light beings. So then what happens as this energy is offered to us? Why do we feel drained and flustered and limited? Because of the inner resistance within us. And so to me, freedom is actually a complete surrender to that divine flow. I call it the Spirit of God, technically the flow of quantum field of potentiality. Choose your language. But that is what freedom is. It's complete surrender to the infinite flow of energy, opportunity, and possibility.
I love that. All things are connected and follow the energy as it flows. So, if someone currently feels stuck in fear or shame or self doubt or even that lack of surrender, but where does somebody who's just completely stuck, hasn't completely adapted to the things you're teaching us, fear, shame, self doubt, and even just not, surrendering to the energy or the flow as you mentioned, what's the baby step?
I think I want to talk about shame because addressing that automatically will help with both fear and self-doubt because the energy of shame is the lowest energy that exists other than a person losing their body and being dead. And if you think of what we're afraid of to be ashamed of something in the end of it. And if we're self-doubting, it's because we are afraid to be ashamed. So shame is the very base energy that's once addressed, frees us from a lot of things. And so the ultimate shift is that for all of us, we've done things we're not proud of. And for some of us, things were done to us that we don't feel proud of. And so the lie that is out there is that we've come to believe that when something happened, it made us unworthy. But the truth is, when something happened, it was unworthy of us. So your first reframe for whatever it is in your life, whatever you're going through, have gone through, is a reminder of your true identity. This simply is unworthy of me. It not only restores your identity as a true child of God, but it also gives you power to start disassociating from the behavior. So you no longer say, I'm an alcoholic. It is unworthy of you, right? This drinking disease is unworthy of you. And so that differentiation in practical terms is the very first step. And so then when you do something that you want to repeat in your life, you will want to actually verbally say, that's just like me. That's just like me. You're reframing the behavior into the identity you want to create. And when you're doing things that you no longer want to associate with, you can say, well, that never happened. That never happened. You know, my favorite, that never happened. So those are the three very practical steps of being able to self-coach through the language of worth.
Man, I love that. You are a wealth of knowledge. To keep it moving, you talk a lot about purpose as well. We're learning how to follow the energy. We're learning how to break those limiting beliefs. We're learning how to press forward. But how does someone actually discover their purpose and more specifically what they're called to do?
The less you think about it, the faster you find it. That's number one. Let your ego go to bed,
That's
kiss it
good.
goodbye, and say, baby, baby, good night, baby, good night.
That's
Go to
good.
sleep. So, the shocking thing is that we've confused the how with the what. So, I know it to be true that you, I, and every person that is breathing on this planet has the same purpose, and that is to love in the most accessible way to them. And when you start loving, you start feeling peace inside. When you start loving, if you hate your job right now, that's the problem. Find one thing you can love and appreciate in that job because what you appreciate appreciates and grows in value. So as you start loving people, things intentionally, if you ask, how can I pour more love into it? Doors open for you that were shut before. And they continue opening, and all of a sudden you discover things that you love to do the most. And looking back, things start making sense and say, oh, wow, I've always been good at it. But if here now you're sitting and going like, well, I feel horrible. I don't know what I'm called for. That is normal. Say this is normal. It's not my norm.
Yeah, man, that's good. What would you say the biggest obstacle is that keeps people from stepping into their purpose?
I think that, there's probably individual answer for everybody. And so I would say to generalize it is that the biggest obstacle will be that they judge the most. If you want to know what your biggest obstacle to stepping into purpose is, pay attention to what you judge the most in the
Mm.
world around you. Because most of the time, unutilized purpose comes through as a huge frustration. Find your frustration, reframe it through love, find your purpose.
That's good. What encouragement would you give to someone who's afraid to take that next step?
Well, I would say that you are about to take your next step regardless to
Mm.
just change the direction. So you are taking your next step, so you just want to change the direction. And the direction always is either towards lack and misery or towards presence and joy. And that is the only choice. You are making those steps, whether by taking them in the right direction or not. So change the direction.
One of the freedom journeys you teach is forgiveness. Why is forgiveness so important?
I love English language. It's my fourth language, hence the accent. And yet it's my favorite one because words carry such powerful meaning in them. And so when I look at the word forgiving, it is miraculous because it consists of two words, forgiving. So forgiving is not for absolving somebody of their responsibility for what they've done. It's simply for giving away the heavy burden of resentment or pain or grief. And that by default gives space to opportunity, to joy, and to expansion. So forgiving is for giving room for you to reclaim freedom and joy in your life. Because if you are packed with blocks of pain and resentment, there is an energy flow and you cannot be moved towards your purpose and towards thriving. It's very important for our subconscious mind to hear, please forgive me. I'm going to give this 30-second tool that I believe will help somebody tremendously. You see, you can want to forgive, you can pray to forgive, and yet our subconscious is an interesting thing. It's wired very much like God, by the way. God says, ask and you shall receive. That's the subconscious law. So if you carry something, you need to write to yourself, not to that person, to yourself, a letter as if from the person that harmed you. So if I'm Vika, and if somebody called, I don't know, Ollie hurt me, I'm going to write to myself, Dear Vika, number one, please forgive me for not being able to ask your forgiveness. Number two, what happened should have never happened. You did not deserve it. It was wrong. Number three, please forgive me, and signed by their name, Ollie. Hopefully nobody carries that name. I tried real hard. And so
Yeah.
it's very important. So once you write that, read it out loud and feel the shift inside you. Because once again, our subconscious is a tricky beast that needs to be asked in order to let go.
I love that. You've had the privilege of working with thousands of people over the years. What patterns do you see over and over that you continue to help fix?
It's the desire for it to be one and done, which just
Mm.
never stops to amaze me. People are like, well, I've shifted this program, so like, why does it come back? And I'm like, well, what are you doing daily to maintain it? So I just it's very important to understand that our mental state, our energetic state, our soul state, mimicking and mirroring our body state. Our body state needs to eat, and I'm sorry for the word poop and pee every day. So does our energy, so does our brain. We need to repeat for things to continue. And so just breaking through something is insufficient without maintaining it. And so you've got to have daily practices that nourish your soul, that nourish your mind, very much like you have for nourishing your body.
If someone listening right now or watches this as a video wants to improve just one area of their life over the next year, what would you encourage them to focus on first?
Gratitude. One of my books, Prosper Me, probably most successful book. It became a bestseller in 49 countries. And
Nice.
it has 35 laws, universal laws for someone to thrive, not just financially, but in all areas of their life. And the very first law there is the law of gratitude. You cannot bypass the law of gratitude. You either grateful or you take things for granted. And if you're grateful, what you appreciate will appreciate and grow. And what you take for granted will get diminished and lose its value. So if there was one thing, one practice that you can do every day, commit to thinking, praying. If you're praying, type pray. If you're thinking, type think. If you both, do both. Think of one person, see whose name comes to mind every day, and then text them and say, I thought about you. This is what I appreciate about you. It will change your life in such a viral way. And more importantly, you will become an answer to someone's prayer in a way that is simply miraculous. So that would be the one step if there was only one to take.
And that is gratitude, correct?
Yep.
I love that. I love that. Well, Vika, I'm so grateful, grateful that you took time out of your day to deliver immense value to our listeners. You dropped so many great information bombs, if you will, to help somebody actually change their life. And it means the world to me. I know one thing that really stood out to me is that many of the limitations that we experience aren't always external, right? Often they're internal. They're beliefs that we've accepted or fears that we've carried or stories that we're telling ourselves, sometimes not even realizing it. And so what the good news is that those stories can change. And so for everyone listening today, it's that you can remember that your future isn't determined by your past. Your future isn't determined by your setbacks. It's determined by what you choose today, to believe today, to do today. And that every day is an opportunity to become a better version of yourself. Vika, if somebody wanted to connect with you or follow you or read your books or just work with you in any way, where is the best place to connect with you or follow you? This is your chance now to advertise yourself. Where would you like them to find you?
Most of the information is very easily accessible on my site, which is you2shine, YU, number two, shine.com. For speaking, if you would love for me to come and speak at your event, it's vika.love. There you go. That's all I do. Vika, V-I-C-A dot L-O-V-E, vika.love. It's also on You2Shine site. But what's coming through as a final little note is two things. If there were a better way to fill in the space-time continuum, this very present moment that each one of us occupies, if the all-knowing universal mind, God creator of all that is, had a better way to do it, it would have been done so.
Hmm.
So since you, where you are, as you are, is the very best that God is capable of, accept that, find your worth, release the guilt, and live through it. Get one of our journals to help you with that, and that is at meseries.love.
That's meseries.love.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we'll do our best to get those edited in as well. And then in the descriptions too. I'm so glad that you joined us today. I learned a ton just listening and asking good questions. I learned a lot myself. So thank you again so much for being here. And to our listeners, thank you for joining another episode of the Salem Speakers Podcast. We'll see you next time.